Mufasa's death. Same scene, same dialogue, not quite the same feeling. One makes you feel real emotion. One looks like a nature doc where animals learned English. Martin Scorsese called it, quote, something you eat and throw away. That's about movies, not McDonald's. When we ask why modern movies suck, it's the wrong question. The right one would be, why would they even be good? To begin, think about some old classics. The Shawshank Redemption pulled $28 million at the box office, with a budget of only $25 million. Fight Club cost $63 million to make, and barely pulled in $37 million domestically. Those are not fighting numbers. Office Space barely broke even. Donnie Darko's initial run, same story. Nowadays, every one of these films would lay dead in their theatrical run. But in the 90s and early 2000s, there was a giant safety net. US home video.
The DVD was a huge part of our business, of our revenue stream.
In 2005, the US home video market hit $16 billion in 1 year. Shrek 2 made a whopping $930 million in theaters, then whooped that whopping and generated $458 million just in DVD sales. One Green Ogre and one movie represent like half of what home video generates today, total. That safety net rescued movie theater flops. Shawshank became the most rented film of 1995 and made over $80 million in DVD sales. Fight Club, same thing. Millions of DVDs sold and made $55 million in rentals. Office Space sold over 6 million DVDs by 2006. Donnie Darko, over 10 million. Back then, DVDs were the only way to view a film once it left theater. Of course, there's no Netflix. No, eventually it'll be on one of my 10 streaming services. If you loved it or missed it, you bought it. The same people paid twice. Word of mouth spread for months, years. Fast forward to 2024, home video collapsed 94% to below 1 billion. It vanished. You might be asking, well, why does this matter? How does this affect movies today? So glad you asked. Very happy to answer. What a great question. The home video net that vanished was not just catching theatrical flops. It allowed for risk. If a studio knew that a movie might flop in theater, but could generate 50 to 100 million in DVD, they could greenlight more original stories. If they were wrong, they could afford it. Fight Club could be made, even if it took a few years to find its audience.
The movies that we used to make, you could afford to not make all of your money when it played in the theater because you knew you had the DVD coming behind the release. And when that went away, that changed the type of movies that we could make.
It generated revenue at every stage, from theater to home video, then pay-per-view, then cable, then broadcast. Every window provides payment. Streaming slit this model's throat and buried it in a shallow grave called the single transaction. One payment, all rights. And because of this, every film has to be a global event or not exist at all. The middle ground is now hollow.
I would have to make $100 million before I got into profit. The idea of making $100 million on a story about like this love affair between these two people, that's suddenly a massive gamble.
This matters, and I'll explain. Think Quantumania. It had a production budget of $200 million. Add another like $100 million for marketing. It grossed $476 million worldwide. Might sound pretty good, until I tell you they needed $600 million to break even. It had a 69.8% second weekend drop, which means the audience from the opening weekend told their friends not to watch it, and they listened. That's the largest dip in MCU history for a film that opened above $100 million. In the old model, home video would have softened that. They would have bought some DVDs. The same slow build that rescued Shawshank and Fight Club, but that door is bolted shut. When you can't afford to fail, you don't try anything that might fail. The things that might fail are often the things most interesting. Another huge reason for why movies suck today, copycats. Filmmakers have stopped drawing from life, and as a result, they now draw from each other. Jordan Peele made Get Out after attending white liberal hosted parties. He said, quote, "The reality is not that far off from parties I've been to. This was not a rebooted franchise. It was something he lived. The sunken place came from the sensation of falling asleep combined with thoughts on the prison system." Robert Eggers spent 4 years researching for The Witch. He read the Geneva Bible. The team built the farmhouse using 17th century tools. They shot with only natural light and candlelight. Quote, "Witches were as real as mud, The Breeze, and God, Eggers said. Barry Jenkins made Moonlight from his own childhood. Richard Linklater shot Boyhood over 12 real years. These are rooted in something real: historical research, personal experience, and genuine questions around grief and belief. Look at what dominates our screens now. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny hashed out $300 million to de-age Harrison Ford. They dropped him into a plot about a time travel device. It's an Indiana Jones movie about other Indiana Jones movies. The originals worked because Spielberg drew from serials he loved as a kid. Jurassic World Dominion brought back the original three, gave them nothing to do but stand next to the new cast as to remind you that Jurassic Park existed. A $185 million high school reunion where dinosaurs felt less real than in 1993. Disney remade The Lion King, shot for shot. The original worked because animated faces express grief, joy, anger, terror. The remake is world-class tech with dead emotion. These films are not about human experience. They're films about other films. Live-action remakes, legacy sequels, IP extensions, franchise maintenance. The pattern extends to every genre.
Stranger Things is Goonies. 3 kids go on a mission, find underground, there's an alien, kill the alien, Goonies.
Guardians of the Galaxy worked because James Gunn had a vision that was different. Humor that came from character, not from general tone management. Drax had realism, Rocket had this defensive aggression, Peter Quill made jokes, masking real pain. The MCU proceeded to spend years in an attempt to replicate it. The result was jokes that undercut the drama. They didn't understand that humor came from unique character. By Volume 3, James himself corrected the strategy. He added Rocket's backstory with the experiments the friends lost. That plays without a joke easing the pain. Critics cited it as the best MCU entry in years. The problem isn't a single genre. The problem is an industry that references its own catalog rather than the world outside it.
They make movies for specific audiences as opposed to just making good movies.
Films made by people who grew up on films, making films about films for an audience that will judge it against other films. There is no bottom to this. We all love a good action sequence, but love is not in the air right now, and I'll prove it. In 2011, a UCLA PhD student, Matthias Stork, published a video essay. He coined the term chaos cinema. The thesis, modern action cinema traded, quote, visual intelligibility for sensory overload. I'll explain. Die Hard, Terminator 2, anything by John Woo. Classic action cinema had spatial clarity. You knew where the characters were, location of exits, and where danger came from. Movies did not cut without good reason, said Stork. It was considered sloppy and even amateurish. Chaos cinema came in and replaced that with what Stork called, quote, rapid editing, close framings, bipolar lens lengths, and promiscuous camera movement. He said it defers all choice until editing, and continued to say sound design creates, quote, the illusion of continuous action between shots, even when there is none. But here's where it gets weird. Again, he published this in 2011. Instagram was a year old. TikTok didn't exist, but Stork already saw where this was going. He wrote that studios embraced this, quote, chaos cinema approach because it matched, quote, the fractured reality of internet clips, smartphone updates, and social media. A, quote, data stream that never lets up. He said this in 2011. The fast-paced, quick cuts fakeness. Cinema was training us for the infinite scroll before it even existed. When filmmakers reject that approach, it's obvious. Take John Wick's Red Circle nightclub. You get to see every reload and movement. Fury Road, real stunts and real vehicles directed by 70-year-old George Miller. Top Gun Maverick, they stuck real cameras on real fighter jets. Even Tom Cruise, he wasn't allowed to fly the fighter jet, but what did they do? They put him in the back, they trained him for G-force, and they still filmed his face as if he was flying. He was still in the jet. These films are celebrated as exceptional achievements, but they just shouldn't be. They are doing what action movies used to do by default. Word of mouth, the ancient form of marketing. Glass Onion, you might know it, premiered at Toronto International Film Festival in 2022. It received a standing ovation. Standing beside Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos was Daniel Craig. Daniel argued, due to the reaction, the film deserved a full theatrical window. Ted said that wasn't the Netflix model. Craig's response, confirmed by Puck News, your model is Netflix proceeded to release it in 600 theaters just for 1 week. It grossed about 15 million. There are industry estimates that suggest a full release could have drummed up hundreds of millions. Netflix then pulled it for streaming. Word of mouth evaporated into the content stream. Trending for a weekend, forgotten by Monday. A24 released Everything Everywhere All at Once that same year on 10 screens, 501,000 opening weekend. They expanded slowly, 38 theaters, then 1,250, then 2,200, 16 weeks in the top 10, 143 million worldwide on a $25 million budget. 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Listen to this. Post-track polling reported 46% of people came because they heard it was good. Word of mouth. It's what built Star Wars, Titanic, Jaws. The streaming content drop model prevents it. When you watch a movie on your couch, who cares? You're consuming. Going to the theater, that's an event. You plan it, check showtimes, convince friends to come, show them the trailer, you sneak candy into the theater, you feel like a criminal, you pay $15 for a Coke, you're in a public place in the dark with strangers, someone laughs at the wrong moment, gasps, cries at the right one. This is a story. When someone asks, what'd you do this weekend? You tell them that story, and it requires naming the movie. Natural question, how was the movie? You then talk about how great or bad it was. Netflix's whole game is time on platform. They want you on their platform for hours without friction, but friction creates memory. The time, money, attention, that's what transforms consumption to experience. A night alone on your couch is not an experience. It's just another night.
And that's why people stop going to the movies, because most of the movies suck.
Let me be clear. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. Netflix spent $200 million on Red Notice. It starred The Rock, Ryan Reynolds. It was Netflix's most watched film for weeks. Do you remember a single scene? Memorable moment? Funny dialogue? No, you don't. I don't. It wasn't designed to be remembered. It was designed to keep you from canceling your subscription that month. Gray Man, same result. 200 million. Rebel Moon, 166 million. Same story. The metric isn't quality. It's sub-loss reduction. If you measure that, Red Notice is a masterpiece. Meanwhile, traditional studios are not doing any better. They want to optimize what's called content verticals. For example, a Marvel movie is not just a movie. It's a film that feeds a Disney Plus series, that promotes a theme park attraction, that sells an action figure, that generates a video game, that then generates YouTube content, that then drives subs back to Disney. The content is a $ ecosystem, not a story.
My only axe to grind against them is they're the only things that seem to be made. And they're the only things that seem to generate any kind of excitement. And there's not really much room for anything else.
A mid-budget original story, a drama, can't be anything more than a movie. And I guess movies aren't enough anymore. Disney live-action remakes are the purest expression of this. They exist not because we want them, but because each one is an IP refresh. The films are no longer the product, the IP is. The films are just a different delivery method of an IP. The reality is, though, when an IP is strong enough, the movie doesn't even matter. Barbie made $1.4 billion. The Minecraft movie made $961 million. Of course they did. Every female between 5 and 55 went to see Barbie. Every kid that's ever played a video game is going to see the Minecraft movie. Greta Gerwig gave Barbie a point. Minecraft didn't even bother. They both made a boatload of money. This is why studios continue to make movies on IP. It's just the math. When a brand delivers the return, the film becomes another form of delivery.
Part of the marvelization of Hollywood, you have all these actors who have become famous playing these characters. They're not movie stars. Captain America is the star. Thor is the star.
Studios used to be run by those who loved film and understood themselves as being in the movie business. Now, movies are just divisions of big businesses like Comcast, Amazon, and Apple. Entertainment is just one line item. The executives that oversee theme parks, phones, cruise ships, and real estate are the same ones deciding the fate of our movies. Where does this lead? What's the end point? Content that is cheap in money and depth. They are optimizing for metrics that have nothing to do if a movie is good or not. Let's close this out. The Zone of Interest was a Holocaust story that never showed the horror directly, just a family and the sounds of Auschwitz. $15 million to make it, $52 million worldwide gross. Anatomy of a Fall was a 2.5-hour thriller that never told you if the wife killed her husband. It had people arguing about it for months. Budget $6.6 million, $36 million worldwide. No franchise, no IP, no special effects. Poor Things was a Frankenstein riff that cost $35 million. It made $117 million and won 4 Oscars. It worked because the director let Emma Stone do something unhinged. Dune is a franchise now, and it shouldn't really work given all I've said, but the difference is Dennis, the director, is not a franchise manager. He's a real filmmaker. He was behind Blade Runner 2049, and it won Oscars for cinematography and effects. Even though that movie lost money, it gave Legendary and Warner Bros. Confidence to trust him with Dune. Dune Part 2 was not greenlit before Part 1 came out. Part 1 was released in theaters and streamed for free on HBO Max the same day. Opening weekend, 41 million. People could have watched it on HBO Max for free and still chose to go see it in the theater. Why? It's because the trailer promised an experience you couldn't get on your TV. Sound design felt in your chest, visuals fit for the big screen. Audiences knew that the minute they saw the trailer. I remember hearing from friends, you have to go see Dune in the theater. It's incredible. You can't not see it in the theater. You'll miss out. It's not for your TV. Part 2 doubled the opening and generated $715 million worldwide. It had no recap, expecting audiences to have seen Part 1. They didn't show up because of an IP. It worked because a filmmaker had a vision, the studio let the vision become the product, and audiences felt that difference. We could feel the movie was made by a person, not a committee. This is the whole argument. Franchises are not the issue. Replacing the filmmaker with the brand is the problem. Parasite from International Cinema, a $11 million budget, made $258 million worldwide. Filmmakers in South Korea, India, France, Japan, they are still drawing from life, still making films that don't exist as content. The desire for real movies isn't gone. The filmmakers still exist. What's gone is the infrastructure that used to serve them to you on a platter. What's gone is that mid-budget ecosystem, the home video safety net, the theatrical window that allowed audiences to grow over months, not days. What's gone is the studio's willingness for risk supplemented for safety and subs. Every time you open Netflix and watch what the algorithm suggests instead of seeking out that A24 film or the film your friend told you about, you are feeding the machine. The system could not exist without people playing into it and accepting it. Something to watch became good enough, and convenience replaced curiosity. The audience for real movies still exists, but it has to choose to exist. A deliberate choice. The next time someone asks you why modern movies suck, you'll know the answer. They don't suck because the audience got dumb, attention spans got short, or cinema died. They suck because they're not supposed to be good. They're supposed to be content. And content, by definition, is just something that fills a container. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, subscribe. It helps out a ton. Thanks again.